Are you saying we should go to war with Russia over Ukraine? Oh, totally, dude. I love, if there's one thing you guys know about me, I love war. I'm a big fan of war. Like, I can't get enough of it. You know, stonks are not doing well, so I'm excited for the defense stonks to, you know, go to the moon this upcoming week. You know, it's very cool. I'm a big fan of war. Some might even say I'm the god of war. I'm like Kratos, you know? TikTok is pushing Philly D's Ukraine videos about Ukraine. They're getting so many views this night. Check out all of his last few videos. Holy dude, what's going on with Germany and Russia? Peace talks between US and Russia fail again. Dude, war is good, baby. War is good for the ratings. Oh my God, Philip DeFranco's channel just became, you know, Philip the State Department. Oh, that was so bad. That was, let's get back to the drawing board on that one. So here's the reality though, okay? The thing is, like, for people like Philip DeFranco and the average American and all of your liberal friends, of course they're gonna be like, yeah, we got to do everything we can to defend Ukraine or whatever, because like that's what the media is telling them. They're not going to think about it beyond the point of like, manufacturing consent doesn't work this way, okay? Manufacturing consent doesn't work in the way that you think, where like people are getting together and deciding like, we should do this, we should be pro-war. It's more so about like, it's more so about people that get elevated to those positions within media for having that perspective naturally and organically, right? That's it. Here. And I don't think like Phil DeFranco personally is like, oh yeah, it'll be sick because good for ratings, or he might, I don't even know if he has a position on this. I'm assuming he does. I just personally, like I said yesterday, and I will continue saying, I do not believe that this is adequate. I do not believe that this is the smart thing to do. I do not believe that like arming Ukraine and then fucking sending troops over to Ukraine, like none of this is a good idea. It's just not. It's not a fucking good idea at all. Okay. Yesterday, for the first time ever, I noticed the United States government used the phrase lethal aid as a euphemism for arms or weapons. By the very next day, national media adopted the phrase without even using quotes. The first shipment of assistance recently directed by President Biden to Ukraine arrived in Ukraine tonight. The shipment includes 200,000 pounds of lethal aid, including ammunition for the frontline defenders of Ukraine. 90 tons of U.S. lethal aid arrives in Ukraine as the border tensions with Russia rise. What the fuck is that? Like, what is that? What is lethal aid? Like, what do you mean? You mean guns? That's what you mean? You mean weapons? That's the only thing we're good at, is fucking giving lethal aid. That's it. And then at home, we never think about the impact of that at home. Like we love talking about fucking, you know, how stupid K-Konas are. Oh yeah, you want to shoot COVID. You want to shoot COVID. Okay. Well, our liberal State Department is also saying lethal aid. How is that any different? Like, these minor tweaks play a larger role in changing people's attitudes about certain things. Neoliberals are out here being like, we're applying lethal aid to Ukraine. That's sick, man. That's fucking sick. That's really cool. That's really tight. Every single person is going buck wild on the Ukraine stuff. Every single person is like, it just popped the fuck off. So now we're just going straight up. Like we're going brazy with it. You know, we're just, and in the latest sequence of L's, we have now decided that, you know, we're going to send fucking Biden is going to choose which forces he wants to send over to Ukraine. And the entire media apparatus, the entirety of mainstream media is looking at this as, why would Putin invade Ukraine again? Ukrainian families on the Russian border live in fear of Putin invasion. U.S. evacuating diplomats from the Ukraine embassy. And it's like, okay, that's, first of all, it's not acceptable for Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine. It's not, right? I just make no mistake. I do not believe that it is an appropriate thing for Vladimir Putin to do. So let me just get that out of the way so that people do not misunderstand my position. Having said that, however, the reasoning as to why there is more troop activity at the fucking Ukrainian border on the Russian side specifically is because we keep fucking juicing the Ukrainians. And we're like, we're going to put you in NATO. What is this? I thought the NATO was the Western alliance, like the Western Hemisphere alliance. And now it's like Ukraine is also a part of the West. What's not a part of the West, motherfucker? Everyone is just an expressly anti-USSR, anti-communist fucking organization is now adding additional, you know, adding Ukraine into the fucking fold. Why the fuck would Russia ever want that? Like, why would they want that? Can you imagine a world in which, like, I don't know, the Chinese government was like, we are going to turn Canada into a military base, okay? We're going to turn Canada and Mexico into forward operating bases in our endless effort to, you know, stop the capitalist rot coming out of Western imperialist forces. Western imperialism is a serious problem. Now we're going to fucking put bases in Canada and we're going to put bases in Mexico. People are saying Cuba. Yeah, that's a great example. What happened with the Cuban Missile Crisis? And even then, the Cuban Missile Crisis only happened because America put missiles directed at the USSR in Turkey. Here's the reality, okay? While it is still completely unacceptable for the Russian troops to like go and invade Ukraine, obviously. So I, unlike every fucking content creator, I'm going to be 100% honest with you and tell you, I don't have the fucking answers, but I do know what not to do, okay? And what not to do is just like keep fucking pumping, keep funneling weapons into Ukraine. Who knows who's getting those weapons, okay? And use idiotic justifications to fucking send more military there and escalate this into saber rattling, okay? Or a step above saber rattling. Because there is legitimacy to the point that, like, you know, Ukraine wants to maintain its autonomy, its independence. At this stage, the only way to prevent serious fucking war or annexation or anything like that is by continuing and normalizing your fucking relations with countries that you already are engaging in trade with and not treating them like a foreign adversary. Okay? And Ukraine's ISIS is already there. It's just fucking Nazi paramilitaries that they're giving money to and that they're giving guns to. For the record, for people being like, this is going to make a Ukrainian ISIS, it's there already. I literally agree. Your worst take on Ukraine, I agree with 99% of the time, but fucking Christ, defending an ally from the aggression of an imperial wannabe fascist is good. First of all, we are the imperialist wannabe fascist as well as Russia is, for the record. And our business, like, here's how I think, okay? I don't think Russia should invade Ukraine, obviously, but us having a say in that conversation is insane. And motherfuckers will say, not this time. This time is appropriate. Not this time. This time is actually appropriate. And you do this without realizing that you are basically still advocating for further NATO involvement. You're still advocating for building fucking military bases. You're still advocating for further escalation of conflict against a country that we have declared our foreign enemy. And that's it. I don't know what the best answers are, but I do know what bad answers are. And bad answers are trying to fucking put Ukraine into NATO, an organization designed specifically to say fuck you to the USSR, fuck you to communism, international communism, an organization that is still being utilized to enact Western imperialism, like taking a fucking neighbor of a country that we've declared a foreign adversary and like adding them onto the let's fuck this country organization is obviously a fucking threat. Like, that's crazy to assume that that is not, you know, that's not a threatening action against this other nation. I feel like there's a distinct difference between capitalist American aggression in Iraq and just defending an autonomous country against imperialism. Just because the USA is also imperialistic doesn't mean we shouldn't also fight against Russian imperialism. Just having a discussion. Please don't drag me. I'm not dragging you, but we are utilizing the situation in Ukraine, which is an honorable and just situation from the Ukrainian perspective, to continue doing additional Western imperialism, to keep beefing up the ranks of NATO, to keep increasing the legitimacy of NATO, which is a organization designed with the express purpose of defeating communism all around the fucking world, okay? And defeating Russia. Well, not Russia, the USSR, which has been defeated. They succeeded, okay? Every single time I get involved in foreign policy takes, it turns into something that is like significantly just awful. Everyone always has a deep understanding of racism or whatever. They're like very progressive on every other issue. But when it comes to anti-imperialist takes, when it comes to like having an approach where like America should be less involved in world affairs like this, like we are not the fucking world police, it's like everyone starts yelling at me because you get all your news from fucking NBC and you can't stop. The Ukrainian official is even stating that the West is overstating its Russian buildup at the border. So the other problem is also this. There is obviously legitimate fears, especially on the Eastern Front, right? From Ukrainian families that live there. They do not want a fucking Crimea situation. They do not want the Russian military to like go across the border and like start murking fools, okay? That is a legitimate fear that people have. But by and large, Ukraine's NSC Secretary Danilov tells BBC he does not expect an imminent invasion and doesn't share the panic which he connects to geopolitical and domestic processes in the West. The buildup of Russian troops at the Ukrainian border isn't as rapid as some claim. The entire purpose of this conversation that we're seeing on BBC, because the UK also came out and revealed more information about this earlier today, is so that we get everyone whipped up into a frenzy and actually escalate to a point where there is actual fire, actual war. The thing that is frustrating about these sorts of conversations is that it's incredibly difficult to actually fucking push back against any sort of like State Department propaganda. It's so difficult because they hit it on every front. You will hear it from liberals, you will hear it from neoliberals, you'll hear it from conservatives, you'll hear it from every single fucking person, to a degree where it's like the most important news story of the day, the most important thing of the day. You cannot think of anything else other than like, we have to go save Ukrainians. Oh my fucking God. The only way we can do that is by literally sending troops there. Ukraine has to be a part of NATO. They have to fucking fight back against Russia. You know what's going to be awful for Russia and Ukraine? If there's actual fucking war. And you might actually say, well, listen, Russia is still interested in expanding. And to that, I say, yes, I agree. But there is a better way to shut off Russia's expansive policies that revolves around diplomacy and economic control, considering the fucking trade relationships that Russia already has with European superpowers, than to say, we have to fucking put military members, we have to put American troops into Ukraine and fucking fight back in like active, hot warfare. Listen, we already know that the American government operates like the fucking mafia, okay? We build military bases everywhere. It's a fucking protection racket. Protecting from who? Protecting from the mafia. Us, okay? We are the mafia gang. Hey, do you not want us to fuck you up like in an irreparable capacity? Well, guess what? I see some real estate in your country. We're going to fucking pave that shit, and we're going to turn that over into a beautiful American military base, which we will then use to further enact our world police mission, okay, globally. And if you say no, we'll fucking kill you, okay? And NATO is just an extension of that. Just one other arm of that exact same fucking business that we are engaging in. And yes, the Ukrainians have wanted to be in NATO since fucking G-Dub, okay? George W. Bush, I think. Or was it George H.W.? That's been an interest for a long time. It's a terrible fucking, it's an aggressive stance. It's aggressive posturing against Russia, okay? That's it. Like it's ridiculous. It's the fuck Russia coalition, and Ukraine is like, let's join the fuck Russia coalition and get like sweet American missiles. I think that utilizing the economic trade capacity and the interest, the reliance that Russia has on European countries, European superpowers, to sell like oil and gas, to using that relationship to bully Russia or to make sure that they do not engage in any sort of expansive action against Ukraine, is actually way smarter than being like, we are going to escalate this conflict into all-out war. Nobody fucking wants that. Many Ukrainians, including the president's office, are unhappy with the U.S. order for diplomats' families to leave. Quite frankly, these Americans are safer in Kiev than they are in L.A. or any other crime-ridden city in the U.S. Okay, listen. So obviously nobody wants war, because while Ukraine does have a pretty sizable military force, ultimately it would be fucking horrible for the people of Ukraine if they ended up in like hot conflict with the Russian military forces. It would be awful overall. It would be awful for everybody. You know who wouldn't be awful for? The motherfuckers who are egging this on. UK, the United States, Canada, the tip of the fucking imperialist allegiance, okay? Because they're gonna sell more guns. That's it. So the people that are literally there are like, no, this is fucking terrible. Can we just like fix this? Shut the fuck up. Except the people that genuinely do think this would be great are the people that are super fucking far removed from the conflict, okay? They're not at the tip of the spear, but they're certainly, you know, they're the trifecta that think this is great. All it takes right now for this thing to just completely blow up is one group firing shots at another. That's it. Like a tiny piece of conflict will 1000% turn this into gigantic problems, especially because like we're currently building the powder keg, okay? We're pumping it full of additional gunpowder. That's all the United States is doing. Instead of trying to fucking de-escalate, and there have been conversations this past week. I've been following it. European countries in the US and Ukraine and Russia are taking for like forever, nothing came of it. There are also rounds of sanctions, but Russia still does puppet war in eastern Ukraine and occupies Crimea. Yeah, but it hasn't gotten to a point where we sent fucking 8,500 troops on alert for possible deployment to Eastern Europe amid Russia tensions, okay? By the way, that's why the fucking NATO exists, okay? That's why these alliances exist. That's why the United States operates fucking hundreds of military bases that we know of all around the world. So they could just be like, oh yeah, what's up, dude? All right, time to fucking send troops over. This is not good. This is very bad. This is loading up the powder keg instead of de-escalating it. And people that have really adequate, comprehensive skills when they are analyzing de-escalation when it comes to domestic issues, when they're analyzing escalation and de-escalation when it comes to police brutality, cannot comprehend that exact same concept when it comes down to it, because they're only seeing Russia as the imperialist actor here. And there is certainly imperialist interest on behalf of Russia. That is true here. If you follow the news closely, then you saw part of the additional escalation from the UK, Canada, and the United States of America, who are the three main advocates for further escalating tension against Russia in Ukraine, was the British intelligence coming out with information that literally, with no fucking facts whatsoever, British intelligence leaked information earlier this morning where they said, okay, that, also Russia is interested in overthrowing the Ukrainian government and actually putting in a puppet leadership in the Ukraine. That's what they said. Okay, that's what British intelligence said earlier this morning. No additional information whatsoever. Why are libs rushing into a war? Try rushing into a vajayjay for once. I agree, dude. If you are to look at the actions of the United States, the actions of NATO, and you turn around and you unironically think that, like, America is doing this out of the kindness of their heart, I don't know what to tell you. There have been a million different cases that you agree on where the United States has been like, oh, we're arming the Mujahideen and whipping them up into a frenzy because the Afghan communist government is doing a bad job, which they were, okay? And now the USSR is getting involved, which they did, right? Like, oh yeah, we just got to do that. We have to. We just, we have to do that. It's defensive posturing. Oopsie. Now Afghanistan is run by the Taliban again. Okay. Oopsie. Those guys, now incredibly bloody conflict, fucking ended up, destroying the USSR in general. So that was at least a W for the foreign policy wonks at the time. And then now the Taliban's in power. Oopsie. Okay. Well, that's fine though. Those are our guys. Those are our guys. Is this not whataboutism? No, dude. This is the entire reason why you learn about history, okay? What I am doing here is offering you historical context of exactly what the United States has done time and time again, because you, on the one hand, recognize that back then it was bad, but then you still turn around and go, well, it's kind of good in this situation. It's not good in this situation either. I don't know how you don't see it. Like, there's no reason to learn history if you're just gonna fucking keep repeating the mistakes over and over again. And anytime that, like, anybody fucking whips you up into a frenzy, you're gonna be like, well, there's a justifiable reason to do imperialism in this situation. Sorry, we just have to do it. Liberals think this is World War III. What?
Watching the start of
Not me watching the start of World War III on a dance app.
Not me watching the start of World War III.
I mean, this is the most, like, I mean, this is true. This is the most Westoid perspective you can have on this matter. It's like, it's good for the news media. It's good for everybody's fucking interactions. It's good for everyone's social engagements. And it's certainly good for the liberals who are like, I'm the most progressive person. I can show everybody how progressive I am by fucking being like, we need to help Ukraine. We need to help Ukraine every way we can to stop the Russian expansion. It's like, and the only way to stop Russian expansion is by expanding ourselves, just like the only way to stop the ad expansion on the top of the hour is by subscribing with a $5 subscription. This motherfucker hashtagged West Elm Caleb, dude. Interested in what you would tell the average Ukrainian working class family that is pro-U.S. intervention? Why? So you can clip it and put it on your fucking neoliberal account? Here. I think some of these points get lost. There are literally hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians who are disillusioned and afraid of war. Oh, wait, never mind. Okay, maybe not. Here's what I would say. I promise, getting help from Western imperialist forces is ultimately going to be so much fucking worse, okay? So much fucking worse. There are countless examples of American intervention. There are countless examples of American intervention and American involvement in Western intervention in numerous other geopolitical conflicts that have turned out in horrifying ways for the host nation. Your leadership in the country, your government in the country may feel like getting NATO help in this circumstance is actually good. You're gonna have some sweet dollary dudes coming in. You're gonna fucking build some bases, dude. You're gonna get some new fucking jets, maybe a defense system, a missile system. Fuck, my dick's getting hard thinking about that, okay? It's cool guns and cool toys. And then maybe, just maybe, you're part of the EU too. You got to be part of NATO. And then, you can get into the EU even, okay? Except the consequences of that are fucking horrifying for the Ukrainian people who will actually fucking bear the brunt. The average Ukrainian family's children are going to fucking die in this proxy war between Ukraine and Russia, okay? Also, the EU is not going to accept them, I mean, there's that. Ukrainians expressed confusion and anger Monday over Washington's decision to authorize the voluntary departure of government employees from Kiev and the order of mandatory withdrawal of family members in the U.S. Embassy personnel. The decision announced by the Department of State cited the threat of Russian military action. It comes as a staggering number of Russian soldiers with heavy weaponry continue to arrive at areas along the Ukraine border, moves that President Joe Biden has warned may be a preparation for a new invasion. The Ukrainians, however, have been more cautious in their assessment of the situation, with current and former national security and defense officials saying they don't recognize Russia's latest military buildup as anything out of the ordinary. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky does not think there's any remotely imminent threat to Kiev at the moment, a source close to the president told BuzzFeed News on Monday, reacting to the partial U.S. withdrawal. The fact that the U.S. was the first one to announce this being the voluntary departures and mandatory withdrawals, is extremely disappointing. And quite frankly, these Americans are safer in Kiev than they are in Los Angeles or any other crime-ridden city in the U.S. The source close to Zelensky said that the president's office viewed the U.S. move as utterly ridiculous and symbolic of what it views as a U.S. inconsistency. On the one hand, Washington tells Ukraine how we should democratize. We stand with you. It's your right to determine to join the West. We will stand with you against Russian aggression, the source said, mimicking messages of support from the U.S. to Ukraine in the past. Then Russia turns up the temperature, and they're the first to leave. The State Department and U.S. Embassy didn't immediately return a request for comment. Zelensky has tried to keep Ukrainians calm and avoid to panic as warnings from Western governments reverberate in Kiev. In a televised address to the nation last week, the president told his people, "What's new? Isn't this the reality for 8 years? Didn't the invasion start in 2014? Did the threat of a large-scale war appear only now? These risks existed. They haven't become bigger. The excitement around them, however, has grown. I wonder why." This is exactly what I said, by the way, that like it's not the fucking Russian stance or Russian posturing that is the true fucking escalation of war. It's actually Western forces that are fucking operating out of DC, that are operating out of fucking London, that is constantly fucking hyping up war. Anyway, does the Russian government really feel threatened? Do they really believe they would be attacked, or is it just to escalate for an excuse to start war? No. Vladimir Putin wants to fucking saber rattle, as it always does, so that he can fucking exert authority, control, make it seem like he's posturing against, Western expansion and Western imperialism. The real threat is from Ukraine joining NATO, though. That is a legitimate fucking act of aggression. By the way, the funniest part about this is like, they're not even a fucking NATO country, but they're being treated like a NATO country. And then you wonder why fucking Putin doesn't want Ukraine to be in NATO. Like, that's what happens when you're a fucking NATO country, dude. What the fuck? Meanwhile, the Ukrainian authorities are like, hold the fuck up. What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Vladimir Putin, in the talks that he had with Joe Biden, said, there's no need for war. We do not want to fucking do war. We do not want to you're causing panic. All you need to do is just give us assurances that like Ukraine will not be a part of NATO. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter, because you never hear that. And then when I mention it, and I have before in the past fucking month, I have mentioned this stuff. Whenever I mention it, you go, hey, why do you even trust Putin? Putin's not telling the truth. Okay, I get it. Like, Putin is not telling the truth. He's a fucking liar. Of course, he's a authoritarian dickhead. But like, it's not in his best interest to actually engage in like regular conflict either. It's in his best interest, however, to do the strategic posturing against Western imperialist forces and then fucking turn around and say, look, I got a dub. Ukraine is never going to be a part of NATO. Look at that dub. But Americans don't want to give him that dub. What's worse in your opinion, Russian invasion and takeover or Ukraine joining NATO? No, the Russian invasion and takeover is fucking awful. And so is the Ukraine joining NATO, because the Ukraine joining NATO will engage in some form of Russian invasion and conflict. So ultimately, both of those roads lead down to Russian invasion. The best thing to do is de-escalate by using the trade relations that they have with Russia. Okay? By using your words, just be nice. No, it's not using your words. It's material power. It's exercising the number one thing that everyone cares about, which is money. Why should Russia decide if Ukraine is going to be in NATO or not? Because NATO is a fucking anti-Russia organization. That's it. So as a regional superpower, they are saying, this is our red line. We do not want this. I personally do understand that. Like, I get why they would not want that. It's not in their best interest to allow that to happen. Of course not. Why the fuck would they want that? Why can't Ukraine be anti-Russia if NATO is a regional superpower? No, Ukraine can be anti-Russia. That's fine. Ukraine being anti-Russia is normal. It's understandable. NATO is a different ballgame. Look at what's going on right now. The reason why we're having this conversation is because the Western world is currently utilizing Ukraine as though it's a NATO member. That's what's going on. That's it. So you are simultaneously on the one hand being like, dude, what's so bad about Ukraine joining NATO? While also on the other hand, seeing the impact of what happens when Ukraine is a NATO, because we're behaving like Ukraine is NATO currently. Also, the U.S. decision to fucking remove diplomats' families from Ukraine is the perfect example of how U.S. treats its allies, okay? You are nothing but a tool. You are nothing but a fucking tool. All right, I'm done with this.